Okay, so quick Demonology guide. I'm going to keep it as quick as possible. Demonic Pact. You probably know what this does, but it's important to note that you only give your spell power buff when your Felguard crits. So this is important to note for like pre-potting and things like that. We'll go over that later. But only when he crits is when you give the 10% of your spell power, right? Next one we'll go over is Molten Core. Molten Core is 3 empowered Incinerates or 3 empowered Soul Fires, also important to note, that is triggered by your Corruption. So always have Corruption up, and pretty much always have Immolation up as well. If you have a Prio, Corruption, especially like in a Decimation phase, Decimation being your Execute, always have Corruption. Very important, because that will empower your Incinerates and Soulfires. So have Corruption up. Whenever you get the empowers, use them, obviously. Decimation. This is our Execute at 35% health. We will Soulfire. Soulfire, Soulfire. Very fun, very large numbers, very cool. Tip with Soulfire and Decimation. So let's say this Grandmaster is the boss, and we're hitting it, we're doing our thing, we're doing our stuff, we're hitting it, and then we notice that this guy over here, let's say he's below 35, we send that, now we have Decimation. We can go back to this and start soul firing, right? So that's for 10 seconds, so you get about 3. This dude's probably dead. Oh, but you notice that this dude has that. Alright, now we have Decimation again, right? So that is how that works. Use rank 1 Shadow Bolt for that. It is a full second and some change faster. Use rank 1, get Decimation, and go from there, right? Decimation, if I got Decimation from this guy, that does not mean that I don't have it on this guy. No, it applies to your character. So, you have Decimation, you can use it, okay? That is the 3 unique things and a part of the main rotation. We'll go over the rotation later, but real quick I'll also show the spec. 0 affliction. If you need hit, you take suppression. Take those points away from improved demonic tactics, but we're pretty late in Wrath now, so you probably don't need hit, so I would use this as my spec. This is pretty standard for destruction. I won't go over glyphs, the Warlock Discord and all that goes over it well. I like to use Felguard. If you're new, you should be using Felguard for sure. Life Tap and Quick Decay, but Felguard is the one that you might swap if you want. But Warlock Discord and the Wowhead page are very helpful. But next we'll go into the rotation, and we'll also do Metamorphosis in the beginning. Demonology is very important in the first like 10 seconds, and it's actually sooner than that. So before the fight starts, we're going to send our guy in, Immolate, bam, bam, we're going in, there's Molten Core, we also have Incinerates. Important is that we did Immolation Aura. Immolation Aura is an ability you get only in demon form, and it does a shitload of damage. It is huge. It's a AoE, it's basically just Hellfire that doesn't hurt you, and it does a lot of damage. So, standard stuff, upkeep Immolate, upkeep Corruption, don't let your life tap go away, and go from there. To get the most out of your Metamorphosis is really how you parse and things like that. Get as much out of Metamorphosis as possible. Don't tap during it. Don't move. Do as much as you can in Metamorphosis, right? Same thing for Soulfire. Do as many Soulfires as you can with Decimation. That is kind of the way to parse, right? Important thing for the rotation is get this macro. I'll leave it on the screen right now. That is Demonic Empowerment. That is an ability that makes your Felguard have 20% increased attack speed, and they cannot be impaired in any way. Build that into Shadow Bolt and Incinerate, so you have as close to 100% uptime. There's no reason why you shouldn't have that 100% active and off cooldown all the time. All the time. Also, another important one is Metamorphosis. Just use this for your Metamorphosis. If you click Metamorphosis twice, it will take you out of Metamorphosis. Nobody wants that. This stops that. Pretty straightforward. Use these, and you should be good. I think that's it for those. Yes. Oh, you can also use Feldom and summon Felguard. See how I don't have a Felguard button? It's just Feldom. Feldom just summons my Felguard. Pretty useful. So that is the general rotation. Some tips with that. And you might have noticed with Molten Core, those fire things that came around my screen, right? That is a add-on called Spell Activation Overlay. I'll pull that up for you. I'm just going to do this a little bit more. Upkeep your shit. See how we have Light Weave and Dying Curse. We'll go over this in a minute. This is in general what this should look like. And I'll point out some weak auras in a second. So, Spell Activation Overlay. There it is. Spell Activation Overlay. That is what this is. If you played Affliction and you have Nightfall procs, you might be used to it. This also shows Decimation. But in terms of weak auras, really quick, the Demonic Pact Tracker, just let you know how good you're doing, and you can practice and read it, and it's good information to have. Your buff reminders, having this is also useful. You are a power battery to the entire raid. Don't fuck up and not be fed or not have a flask. Just have this up here. This Dying Curse or Flare is important if you have a Living Flame, especially now that we're in Ulduar, an on-use spell power trinket. If you do have that, what this add-on does, or what this weak aura does, is it tells you when you have Dying Curse. It will also have an audio cue. That way you can have both of these active at the same time, effectively giving the most amount of spell power, right? So you'll only use Living Flame when Dying Curse is active. That's how I use it. A life tap reminder, any Warlock in Wrath should have this, very useful. And then this is the other one. Have some form of a pet attack reminder. Have it show when your pet is not attacking or when he is attacking, whatever works for you. Just have your Felguard attacking. That's pretty much it. And then the last one is having some form of reminder for spiced mammoth treats. You have to feed your pet now if you've been playing Affliction. Have fun with that. These are not that expensive, but it's just another thing to upkeep and another thing to remind you. Let me know if you need these. I can post them or share them. And that is it for weak auras and that stuff. Important things to note, you should always be having Soul Link. You might not be used to that. Soul Link will help you stay alive. Your double life taps is useful, your double Shadow Bolts. We've already gone over that. If you've played Luck, you know what the double life tap is for. And yeah. Oh, yes, pre-potting. This is important. This is why I mentioned that your Demonic Pact will not trigger until your guy crits, right? So he crit immediately. We are not always that lucky, right? So with pre-potting, you need to be able to use 2 pots a fight, if possible. Obviously, some fights you don't really do that, but pretty much every fight that you can, you need to, because this is the only time that all of your trinkets and your tailoring cloak, and if you have those, are off cooldown, or they can proc, right? So this is your best chance to have the biggest Demonic Pact possible, because when you draw the nuts, you send in your Shadoon, he will, your Cape will proc, your Dying Curse will proc, that procs your Living Flame, because you're going to hit that. Then you've also pre-potted, then something else procs if you have it, and you have all these procs stacked up in the very beginning of the fight, and then your Felguard crits, boom, you now have given your entire raid 600, 700 spell power, and you've done great. You've done exactly what you were supposed to do. And then you continue to do the rest of the fight, exactly how you would have in the earlier stages. Though that's the way I think about it. Don't worry about the spell power later. Just do your damage. You'll do it naturally. Balancing that, don't worry about it. The only time I focus on it is in the very beginning, because that's when you can get mostly guarantees, right? I know specifically on like Steelbreaker and things like that, I consistently give out the highest spell power possible in the beginning. That's for as many fights as I can, but I know for some reason Steelbreaker sticks out. I consistently hit that high spell power mark, right? But yeah, let me know if you have any other questions or anything like that. That is the gist of Demonology with Warlock. Hopefully I showed off the Weakras and add-ons and macros well enough. And mainly, it's pretty simple. Upkeep your stuff, have a lot of spell power, carry a big stick, and you'll be fine.